about this particular part of the rubric, this writing and written expression part. Raise a quiet hand if you remember what I told you was so important about this whole piece. Okay, and then we looked at some of the key words that stood out, and we talked about what are they really telling us we need to make sure we have in this layer. Caitlin?
An accurate character trait, you had to stay on topic and a solid quote and proof that fully explained it.
To get a what? To get a 4. All right? And then what did we say was going to drop you to a 3? Trey? Yeah, you had maybe, an accurate answer. You were on topic. You had solid quotes, but maybe your proof was lacking a little bit. What drops you to a 2? Holly?
Somewhat right on topic and quote.
Okay, so you have really more than one thing going on, right? Something that's lacking, something that's not. Second layer of the rubric. Again, we were looking at specific wording. What words stood out in almost every one of these pieces of the layer? Haley?
Transition words and mediums.
Okay, so we were really thinking for this portion, they're really talking about how our writing is done. Do you have transition words? Do you have good lead-ins for your sentences? What other thing was a component in this layer of the rubric, Reese? The 3 C's?
Yeah.
Those words that are hard, right? Cohesion, clarity, and coherence. And what did I say that basically meant? Even if you don't know the meanings of those words specifically, we talked about what that meant.
Like it flow and goes well together.
That's right. We're really talking about the flow, okay? Does it go together? Do your sentences work seamlessly together, okay? The flow of it, the cohesion of it. And then it has to make sense, right? That's the clarity and the coherence. It's got to be understandable. That's what this whole layer is about, okay? And so yesterday, remember we looked at the model, and then we looked at your partner's work, and we tried to go through and see, okay, well, what would give it this, what would give it this? What makes somebody get a 4? What all do they have to have?
Transition words.
Okay, Brooklyn?
Transition words, lead-ins, and for
Uh-huh. And what kind of vocabulary are you going to see? High-level vocabulary, right? They're going to be using some really great words that shows that they probably use a thesaurus to bump up, right? What gets somebody a 3? Okay, thank you.
They have transitions for our REQP that are repetitive or not very written.
Okay, so maybe they have those transition words. They have some, but maybe they're being repetitive. They maybe are using some of those lead-ins that are kind of just those, let me pull them out of my back pocket, the ones that we always go to. For example, I know this because in the text it states, we've talked about how that's a go-to if you don't know what to put, but it maybe isn't the best way to say it, right? Okay. And then low-level wording, in general, the wording that you're using. Okay, what about a 2? What would cause somebody to drop to a 2, Brady?
Only transitions 2 are in the 3
Okay, maybe they didn't do transitions for all of their writing. Maybe it was just 2 that were done. Yes, Caitlin?
And they have a lot of low-level words.
And a lot of low-level words. What about a 1? All right, so we're ready now to look at that 3rd layer. Okay, for this 3rd layer, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look at what key words are they giving us. All right, so look on it and make this as big as I can. All right, so the student response establishes and maintains an effective style attending to the norms and conventions of the discipline. Well, keywords do we need to underline in here that we feel might be important words, Garrett?
Effective.
Okay, effective. That's a word that we've kind of seen already in this rubric. Being effective, all right? Right now, does anybody know what that might mean? I know it seems like it's very, teacher-like. Oh my gosh, I don't understand what those words mean. What do you think they're talking about when it says that you have to keep effective, and I'm going to pull the word style, and then attending to, that kind of means to keep or to watch, for the norms and conventions of the discipline. Anybody know what that might mean? When you are asked to write for me, okay, usually I'm asking you to do what kind of response? RAQP, right? Right? That has a very certain, Reeks, you think you know?
Maybe like following the criteria.
Okay, following the criteria, and not just the criteria, but the way in which we're supposed to write it. The format, right? What format do we always have to use with our responses? Some version of RAQP, right? Sometimes they're asking you for. Okay? They're wanting you to maintain effective style. So you need to keep with the type of writing you're supposed to be writing. Alright? And the norms and the conventions of the discipline. So what they're looking for, you got to keep with that kind of writing. You can't do, a response that looks more like a story if they're asking you for an essay. Does that make sense? Yes? Okay. So, if I am going to give someone a 4, this is what they have to have. And remember, everyone has their pen. You're ready to write. I'm looking for this particular writing, having a full format of RA. So I'm going to make sure that I have a restate of the question. I need to make sure that I have an answer to the question that I'm giving back in that format. All right? When I say Q, what is it that I want, Holly?
A quote.
A quote. What are quotes giving us or giving to the reader of your stuff? When you're giving quotes, Cooper, what are you showing someone? And then when I say P, when we're doing RAQP, what is it that I'm making sure that you are giving to a reader? William?
Proof that shows that your quote supports your answer.
Proof, right. That quote is really supporting your answer. Now, as long as you know that, guys, it doesn't matter where you go, to any school, any high school, they may not call it RAQP, but you know, hey, I know when I respond to a prompt, I've got to have some kind of restate of the prompt, I've got to have some kind of answer, I have to have evidence, I've got to have my quotes, and then I've got to be able to say or back up what it is that I'm saying as my answer in the quotes. You've got to have something that is going to explain yourself, commentary. Quotes. Why is it that you can't just leave it at your quotes?
They might not understand.
What's that?
They might not understand the quote or understand how it is.
Yeah. Whoever's reading your response may not understand the quote that you pulled, and they may not see the what?
Connection.
The what?
Connection.
The connection. It says establishes and maintains a mostly effective style while attending to the norms and conventions of the discipline. What word changed?
Mostly.
Mostly. Okay, underline that keyword. That's really important. All right. Now, I'm going to hold off on doing the writing, the explanation. I want to go through the keywords, and I want us to talk about the keywords and how they changed. All right, look at the next one. For a 2. Has a style that is somewhat effective, generally attending to the norms and conventions of the discipline. What words are my keywords that are changing up a bit? Garson?
Somewhat.
Okay, somewhat effective. And then what else? Chris.
Generally attending to.
Okay, I like that. Generally attending to the norms and conventions. What do you think is going to get somebody that 3 instead of having that full 4? What do you think it's going to take for them to drop down, Caitlin?
Maybe they're missing the part of the RAQP.
Okay, so maybe they're missing one of those, right? Okay, so I'm going to write down missing, and I'm also going to add something else, or incomplete. And I would just say one of these, okay? So let's say maybe they forgot to do the proof, or they did it but they didn't seem to really finish it out or round it out. Okay, what do you think is going to drop somebody down again to a 2? Alright, okay, so what's my next step now that we've talked through? We're going to look at that model that I had from yesterday, and we're going to see how we would score this one for that layer. And y'all know we're going to have to reread it to remind ourselves. Alright, so in the model it says, in the diary of Anne Frank, the dialogue revealed that Mrs. Frank's character trait was furious because the author uses dialogue to show her anger towards the Bondons. Mrs. Frank's reaction was normal. But remember, we're now just looking at that last layer. I don't want you to focus on anything else. And in the layer that we just looked at, we're looking for, are you writing to the style that you're being asked to write for? A regular RAQP response. They're missing the quote. Because in here, and we've already even talked about it yesterday, this person's response, they were saying how there's many quotes that would support their claim, but then they don't actually give it to us. Do they have a restate? Yeah, right? I mean, they started it off correctly, right? They were restating what they were going to give their answer. Did they give an answer?
Yes.
It is an answer. Did we say it was the best answer? No. But it is an answer. No quote. Did they give some type of explanation?
Yes.
Okay. Very good. They did. Was it done correctly? Did they start it off the way that it should be started off? No, not really. But something is there, right?
But it's incomplete.
But, okay, go ahead. Explain.
So I'd give it to you because it didn't have the quote, and then the proof was incomplete because it didn't describe.
Because it didn't necessarily go where it needed to go, right? You having a hard time breathing? Sorry. All right. So, I, too, would give it probably a 2. Because that, I'm sorry. Let me leave it up. Because their prove it really wasn't quite where it needed to be. And also, remember what we were talking about yesterday, how this piece right here doesn't seem to even go, and it's just kind of hanging out here? Yeah. It really makes it feel like their prove it statement isn't finished. Now, I want you, knowing what we know from the layer, look at your partner's work. And I know that you've read it a couple times, but I want you to read just their character trait piece. Just the part on character trait. And I want you to tell me, or not tell me, tell them, what would you score it and explain why.
How did you score your partner? What did you give him?
You ready to look
I
at the
gave him a
very
3.
last
Why?
thing that we're going to
Because
look
I
at?
felt that his
Flip your page
proof,
over.
I saved answer was
Now,
strong,
what we
but this
just went
proof
through,
was
guys, that
lacking
was
a
the
little.
most important part.
Okay.